Today we start a new sermon series, and it's one that has been really percolating within myself for a while. Many of my clergy friends have preached the same exact sermon series. My colleagues really got into the research and preaching of it, and their congregations also got a lot out of it. This theme of, did Jesus really say that, is an important one, because we take for granted just how radical and earth-shattering what Jesus said and did really was. Jesus' very presence interrupted many people's lives in some very uncomfortable ways. For example, if Jesus deemed that the last shall be first and the first shall be last, Jesus died with and was in intentional relationship with the so-called sinners of his society, the tax collectors, the lepers, the adulterers, just to name a few. Jesus was not afraid to challenge the status quo of his society's expectations. But Jesus didn't rock the boat just to do it, or to make others mad. Instead, Jesus was following a higher calling, which was to sacrifice himself so that God's kingdom could be more realized and visible here on earth as it is in heaven. Whenever someone is actively trying to accomplish something that's significant, there is a certain level of discomfort and disturbance that happens as a result. Within the gospel recordings of Jesus' activity and ministry, there are many things that Jesus said that makes us scratch our heads and wonder, did Jesus really say that? It doesn't matter whether we are a biblical scholar or a casual reader, we can't help but do a double take at some passages and wonder, what did Jesus really mean when that particular statement came out of his mouth? We start our sermon series with a passage that is both a source of comfort and a source of uneasiness for many. Matthew 5, 1 through 12 is identified as the Beatitudes. The definition of a beatitude is an announcement of God's favor. A beatitude is a declaration of God's blessing. The word blessed and the numerous variations on that word is used over 400 times throughout the entire Bible. So obviously, blessedness, blessing, being blessed is so very important to God's story. In our scripture today, Jesus talks very specifically about what it looks like to be blessed. And it's not what you think. Throughout Scripture, and especially within the parameters of the Old Testament and Jewish theology, blessing and curse go hand in hand. In Deuteronomy, God speaks to his people Israel about how they are to choose the way that leads to blessing, which is God's way, instead of the way that leads to curses, all other ways that are not of God's. It's up to God's people which way they choose. And honestly, all of God's children, since the beginning of time, have wrestled and struggled between choosing the way of blessing over the way of curses. And our scripture today continues to speak towards that balance. The Beatitudes is the first of 5 discourses or sermons that Jesus gives in the Gospel of Matthew. The Beatitudes are the first part of a larger discourse identified as the Sermon on the Mount. The text from the Sermon on the Mount begins in Matthew 5 and lasts through Matthew 7. These declarations of blessings in the Beatitudes come from a pre-gospel document called the Cube, and the Cube was filled with selected sayings of Jesus. Many scholars believe that when Jesus professes these declarations of blessed people in the Beatitudes, he's trying to mirror Moses and the 10 Commandments. That's how very important the Beatitudes were to Jesus. In a way, when Jesus was reciting these Beatitudes, he was expanding upon the knowledge and wealth of the 10 Commandments. The body of the Beatitudes is divided into 3 distinct categories of blessings, which are people whom God's favor and blessing is on. The first 4 blessings are for people who lack justice, those who are poor in spirit, those who mourn, those who are meek meaning humble, patient, and kind, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. It's very interesting that that particular category of blessings is rated as something that is opposite of who they are and what they're currently experiencing. For example, those who are poor in spirit are given God's kingdom. Those who mourn are comforted. Those who are meek will inherit the earth. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, well, they will be filled. The next 4 blessings are reserved for those who work and seek out God's holy justice. Those who are merciful, those who are pure in heart, those who are peacemakers, those who are persecuted for righteousness. This particular group of blessings are given what they seek to achieve. The merciful will receive mercy. The pure in heart will see God. The peacemakers will be called children of God. Those who are persecuted will be given God's kingdom. And this last beatitude, the declaration of blessing, is different from the rest because it doesn't talk about a specific group of people. Instead, it targets everyone. It's a plural, you. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So Scripture, so early on in Matthew's Gospel, the teachings and the Beatitudes is very much Jesus' coming out story, in which he's telling those who are willing to listen what he's all about, why he came, and what he is trying to accomplish. There are many, many reasons why I love Jesus. And one of the main reasons why Jesus has my heart is because he didn't say and do what society expected of him. And who Jesus declares as being blessed in the Beatitudes is a prime example. Why are those who are poor in spirit, the mourners, the meek, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers, the persecuted, why are they blessed? They would seem furthest away from living in a state of blessedness. The word blessed has really been distorted from its original biblical meaning. How often have you said or heard something along the lines of, I'm blessed because I have a house, I'm blessed because I have money in the bank, I'm blessed because I have food on the table. I know I've said statements similar to that. However, when we equate blessedness with wealth and possession of material resources, we're using the wrong word. And what about those people who don't have a house, or money, or food? Does God not bless them? Our scripture supports that line of questioning. A more appropriate word to use in that context is privilege. For the most part, many of us here say we are privileged because we were born during a particular time of history in this particular place. Because we are privileged, it doesn't mean that we don't have our own struggles and personal battles that we fight on a daily basis. However, not too many of us in the sanctuary today know what it's like to really and truly struggle due to a lack of basic needs, food, water, shelter, supports, and help. Living in a state of privilege does not mean we are blessed. And it's best that we stop using the word blessed in that way. Being blessed is solely based on God and and has nothing to do with how we're